lovely good morning to you, our Camnet TV viewers, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Camnet Breakfast Show today, 20th June 2025. I'm by my co-host Miriam Kaimba. Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning, Zippo. It's getting cold, but anyway.
But is it that cold though?
You know, it only get colds at night, right? Get extremely
Even
cold.
have the flu at night, start getting bluish.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, Zippo, I'm so happy that only one day is remaining to my birthday.
Tomorrow is
I'm turning 19.
You wish everyone wants to turn, the teen years forever.
Exactly, we are young forever.
Forever young. Anyway.
Exactly. So what do we have for our viewers this morning?
Well, to you, our Camnet TV viewers, do stay tuned in because they have some very, very interesting topic. We have a very interesting topic for you. We're going to be joined by the coordinator of the Kwilimuna traditional ceremony, which is slated for 22nd July 2023. And so this traditional ceremony, Miriam, I'm sure many people do not know about it, People know the Ntwalas, the Kwombokas, but we have smaller traditional ceremonies that, if fully, taken advantage of, can gain a lot of foreign income for the country and draw a lot of tourists.
Exactly.
And so this traditional ceremony basically celebrates the coming of the Lamba people of Mpongwe district from Congo. By then it was called Kola. I've done my research.
Interesting.
By then Congo was called Kola. So they're saying that celebrating the coming of the chieftains from Kola into that region of the country. And so, they're going to remember their going to showcase, some foods, some traditional foods, and I think to be a good opportunity, for tourists.
Yeah. Just like you have, put it that, it helps us. Tourism, culture helps us, gain some foreign exchange because we have different people coming in to see exactly what is happening. But anyway, I hope to learn more about this culture. Yeah, as we join our guest on stage, with our viewers out there, we hope to learn more. Because it's quite sad that our focus has been made,
on the major tradition. The first one is Kwomboka, that's the biggest.
Kwomboka, and then
Ntwala and everything.
Exactly.
And all that.
But we forget about other stuff.
Minority. But if we fully leverage on that, we can, have a lot of money as a country. So do call in on the numbers that will be scrolling on your screen when you open our phone lines and, give your take on the promotion of local culture. Are we doing our best to preserve culture, and especially in the filtration of some Western cultures, maybe the Western way of living? It's not everything may be bad, but as Africa, what identifies us, And on social media these days, Miriam, people are actually taking pride in being seen as African, that tradition, because at first everyone was looking down on it, but it has become fashionable. Like, oh, you're unique. You can't be like everyone.
Exactly. Anyway, moving forward, we just now go in direct into our healthy corner and just see what the doctors have for us.
Good morning. Welcome to the Health Corner on the Breakfast Show. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dr. Namunji Matale. I am the Public Health Chairperson for Resident Doctors Association of Zambia, the UTH branch in particular. Thank you so much once again for joining us today. So we'll dive right into today's topic, which is sickle cell anemia. Just to recall, we are celebrating World Sickle Cell Week. Just yesterday was World Sickle Cell Day, so we're going to continue on our topic of sickle cell disease with a particular focus on sickle cell anemia. So let's get right into it. So you might ask, what is sickle cell anemia? Probably you've heard people talk about, oh, this person is a sickler, though I don't personally like to call them that. They're sickle cell warriors because they're survivors. So sickle cell anemia is a type of condition or disease that falls under sickle cell disease. It's a condition where a person inherits two genes. Remember, genes are basically parts of our bodies that code for our very being. You have a gene for something that codes for the color of your eyes, the color of your hair, the color of your skin. We have genes that code for everything that you are as a person and as your being. So just like that, in our blood, we have red blood cells. And in our red blood cells, there's something called hemoglobin. And we have a gene that codes for hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is actually what gives our blood its red color, because it's an iron-containing substance and it gives the red color. So when someone inherits a faulty gene or a gene that's not proper for hemoglobin, in particular what we call the HBS gene, when a person inherits two HBS genes from their parents, they develop what we call sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is one of the most complicated and most debilitating conditions under sickle cell disease, like we mentioned in yesterday's show, which you should catch if you missed it. It's a spectrum of diseases. Sickle cell disease is a spectrum of diseases that affect your hemoglobin, but sickle cell anemia in particular is where someone inherits two faulty genes from parents, meaning you can either be a carrier. For example, you can have carrier state where you have one normal hemoglobin from one parent and a faulty one from your other parent, which is called HBS. But with sickle cell anemia, you have to inherit sickle cell genes from both your parents, or the HBS from both your parents, such that you have two abnormal hemoglobins. And you find this abnormal hemoglobin, which is found in your red blood cells, causes your red blood cells to form a sickle shape. That's what actually gives the disease its name, or a banana shape if you like. And under normal conditions, you know, your red blood cells are supposed to be nice and round, or in my grade 8 biology, we learned that they were disc shaped, right? So in a sickle cell patient, you find that under certain conditions where, say, there's low oxygen, or you're in a place where there's low oxygen in high altitude, or if you have an infection, or you're very cold, or you're very hot, it causes your cells to become banana shaped or sickle. You know, they form the sickle shape, and they're not able to pass in your blood vessels as they actually should. And this leads to some of the complications that we see on a daily basis in our hospital emergency rooms. So like we mentioned on yesterday's show, one in 5 Zambians are actually carriers of the sickle cell gene, which is the importance of people getting screened. So back to our biology lesson, when you have the sickle shape of the cells, they don't pass properly in your blood vessels, and it causes blockages, which is what leads to a lot of the crises we see, and there's several types of crises. One of them being what we call vaso-occlusive crisis. If you go back into what the name talks about, vaso, talking about your blood vessel, occlusive, which means blocking. So you have something, you have these cells clamped together blocking your vessels, and it causes a lot of pain, especially the fingers and the toes. And you can have babies as young as even 6 months having a vaso-occlusive crisis, where they'll just show up at the hospital. Maybe the parent will tell you, no, my kid has been having swollen, painful fingers the last 3 days, or you can have a child showing up with even yellow eyes, because the yellowing of the eyes is caused by the breakdown of these cells. I must mention that your normal healthy red blood cell lives about 120 days, but when you have the sickle cell disease, when you have sickle cell anemia, you find that because of the nature of the shape of the cell, they're not as strong as a regular red blood cell. So they're always being broken down. And you find that sickle cell anemia patients tend to have low blood, or a state of anemia like it's called, because these cells are always breaking down, okay? And you find that because of the same breakdown, it causes yellowing of the eyes, or what we call jaundice, for example. So you can find that someone will present to the hospital the first time maybe with jaundice of unexplained origin, or the same swelling of the hands and feet. And this blockage that I mentioned earlier in the vessels can actually happen at any point in the body. If there's a blood vessel in your body and you have sickle cell anemia and it's a small vessel, it can actually get blocked. And these are some of the complications that a sickle cell anemia patient has to deal with on a daily basis. The blood vessels can get blocked in the brain, and that can cause a stroke. Imagine someone as young as 2-3 years old having a stroke, but that's the reality of sickle cell anemia. You can have what we call acute chest syndrome, where it basically happens in the chest or in the lungs. You can have a vaso-occlusive crisis in your abdomen or your belly, if you like, and someone will have abdominal pain. Patients with sickle cell anemia are prone to leg ulcers, they're prone to have bony pain, and so many other complications that they can battle with. Thankfully, we are in a new age where there's definitely several treatment options that a sickle cell anemia patient has. But for today's focus, we're just on the actual disease itself. And these are some of the many complications that can happen in a person with sickle cell anemia, which brings the importance of one screening. It brings the importance of one knowing their sickle cell anemia status. And that is why on a global front, we are celebrating World Sickle Cell Week, because it's a condition that one, if left untreated, can leave someone with a very poor quality of life and even death because of some of the complications. Like I said earlier, imagine having a child as young as 7 years old with a stroke and they're not able to walk. Meanwhile, if we had screened much earlier, this condition could have been caught early and we could manage the condition better, even for a lifetime. So that's sickle cell anemia for you. Just a short recap, it's a condition where someone inherits 2 faulty genes for hemoglobin from both parents, not one parent, but both parents. So meaning any of us could be a carrier. When you are a carrier for sickle cell disease, you won't have the complications that someone who has the anemia. So meaning you only have 1 faulty hemoglobin. Like we said, for you to have sickle cell anemia, you need 2. So if you only have 1, it means you have sickle cell trait, or you're a carrier, or you have carrier state. So if you are a carrier, you won't always know that you actually have it. You go symptomless, or if you want in medical terms, asymptomatic. You will live your life very normally. You have no idea. It may pop up in certain situations, like maybe when you're pregnant and you find yourself having lower blood levels than everyone else, or if you're a person who does a lot of high altitude climbing or mountain climbing, you find you'll be more breathless than your colleagues or something, or you're triggered, you have conditions where you're triggered such that your cells are caused to sickle. But even then, most of the time it goes unnoticed, which stresses the importance of screening. So that sickle cell anemia for you, a condition where one inherits 2 faulty hemoglobin genes from both parents, and then it causes a lot of problems, mostly to do with blockages in the blood vessel, and these can present as a stroke in a child even as early as 2-3 years old. One can have recurrent chest infections, another person can have recurrent urinary tract infections. So there's so many complications associated with sickle cell anemia, which is why we are commemorating World Sickle Cell Week, which is why we're trying to spread awareness about the condition and remind people to get screened so that they know their sickle cell anemia status. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow as we continue on the topic.
I hope you have learned 1 or 2 things there, where the doctors was talking about sickle cell anemia you know, the doctors have continued, you know, to give us these healthy tips. And Zipporah, just like we were saying yesterday, you know, there were a lot of myths surrounding, you know, sickle cell, but we are glad that we have the doctor there, you know, providing us with medical expert information on exactly what sickle cell is. And today we're now looking at sickle cell anemia. I think by the end of this week we'll be educated more on what exactly sickle cell is. Yeah. Anyway, moving forward, we now just go direct into our money market and see how our currencies are performing. We have the Great British Pound there buying at 24.59 ngwe and selling at 25.07 ngwe. We have the United States dollar there buying at 19.18 ngwe and selling at 19.56 ngwe. We have the euro there buying at 21 kwacha and selling at 21.42 ngwe. We have the Zambian kwacha there buying at 1 kwacha and selling at 1 kwacha. That is our foreign exchange for today.
Quite interesting there, Miriam. And of course, you can see that you can still see that our kwacha is on the 19 kwacha mark compared to $1.
Yep.
And anyway,
we won't say much about that. I think we have given, you know, a lot of analysis when it comes to how we want to see, you know, our currency performing, and you know, translate into in terms of our buying of goods and commodities, you know, reflect. Because the more we see the dollar getting, you know, selling on the selling part going towards 19-20 kwacha, that also, you know, affects the prices of commodities at the end of the day, and that is what we don't want to see. Anyway, moving forward, in just zooming in some of the headlines. Yesterday we did see Nelson Zulu do a story in Lusaka Mtendere area, which is under Munali constituency, where the residents there have called on government to do a cleanup of bars and nightclubs that are near Mahatma Gandhi's combined school. Quite sad, huh?
And I think I've always talked about those bars, Miriam, where I always said that it's always unsafe around that area, especially at night. You find these youths drinking, they've even taken off their shirts, you know, they're sitting on benches along the road, Miriam. They're smoking, and you know, it's 22 hours, and people are still drinking like that.
But you know, the thing is...
And it's right in the community.
Yeah, but the concern again is that those bars are just near the school. That's noise pollution.
In fact, two schools. There's a nursery school and Mahatma Gandhi school.
Wow.
And there's a bar.
Causing noise pollution to the children there. And I think, you know, children become, you know, disturbed. Some of the kids would try to sneak out of class and just go and see what is happening. Yeah, a very serious concern. I hope, you know, the local authority there will come on board and ensure that they put 1 or 2 measures there. Yeah.
Definitely. Let's step by that story, and do join us in the conversation as we're discussing trending issues before our main topic.
While schools are meant to be safe places for acquiring skills and knowledge, the case is different for pupils at Mahatma Gandhi Combined School in Lusaka's Mutendere Township in Munali constituency. The resident, who spoke on condition of anonymity for fear of being intimidated, say bars and nightclubs are a menace to the concentration of pupils. They explained that the existence of bars and nightclubs near the school premises is leading pupils into illicit beer drinking. They are calling on government to consider finding a lasting solution to the bars and nightclubs operating near the school.
Adenda mabaa epali chombo kabolo pa ground apa mabaa vo vina chibana wasaza choka mwazabwera mwaona so sikumanika bwino issue ya mabaa pa school siri bwino zona kozi wafana nango enese wamvera machoka pano kwenda mu kumwa kubakuti so this is a government mwenenga ganizirepo maybe my teachers when ngatinga carrying a weight maybe ndiangaendeka ni ku Ministry of Education complain nakuja to mabaa at disturb school ndipintinga kamba otherwise my powers yenyewe tiribe utitinga fundo kwacho sapo basi
magandi bazona mabaa yali pafupi na school bana sako nkoloka iyai so musepo chimozi wa government
mabaa pafupi na school wakamboleza bilimba ana schools now in class nishitalira kai concentration iraga kuvela bonsa teacher mbomvera pale wala bachuka ku mabazi ku mawindo yalipanja hapa vana nga disturbed kai enango bakakolewa mboshauta bambopundira pa mawindo so sikuoneka bwino na mwana sanga se concentrate bwino.
But area councillor Boniface Chiweka says the bars and nightclub owners are defying the law and is confident that a lasting solution will be found.
So those home shops are supposed to be closed, and if they have licenses, are supposed to be revoked. Then talking about a bar, the only bars I know there, I think there are about 3 bars. There's the Katumba, then we also have Lofa Bar and Maisen. Those bars have been there for a very long time. The only thing they need to do, or we need to ensure, is adherence to what the certificate, liquor certificate is talking about. That is no underage drinking and also opening and closing at a right time. That is what I would think is the...
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Quite interesting there. And remember, I think we've continued discussing this issue of bars being located where, where the schools, and I think there's been a radius.
But the other concern, Zipporah, is when a bar is being put up, you get license from the Lusaka City Council, right?
Those ones do not have, because, Mary, I'm speaking from an informed point of view, that's where I stay. Previously, it used to be a grocery shop. You buy washing powder, you buy everything.
Did it stay
the next day, I went there looking for washing powder just to find liquor on the shelves. Because I'm looking for this washing paste, they're like, no, there's only beer here. So you know what I mean? I'm wondering. And in fact, the council, I've contacted him many times on that, and he says he has to find out whether it's operating legally, because it's not legal for a bar to be in a residential area.
And I don't think the city council would issue a license to any bar that is operating near a school. And in awkward hours, because they operate, I'm sure in the morning, they're operating at night, and causing a disturbance to the children. Like you have heard from the people that Nelson did interview there, they have indicated, that there's some kids who are stubborn, would sneak out in class and just go and see what is happening. Imagine there's loud music playing and then people are dancing. People will be children will be very curious of wanting to see exactly what is happening. Yeah, quite sad though. Quite sad.
And we also did see the first deputy speaker of the National Assembly attract at Sangano. That's just planting trees in Chikankata district, and so she says this is a move that Parliament has taken up, and they're going to plant 1,000 trees per constituency.
Yeah.
And she was calling on parliamentarians to, to lead the way in tree planting. She says no one should now say, oh, tree planting is for that sector or that sector. It cuts across all sectors because of climate change.
Climate change, exactly. And I think that's a very good initiative, because there's a lot of cutting down of trees. So we have seen in different rural parts of the country, talking about Shangombo, where I was, when you talk about the Luapula, northern, it's quite disturbing, and we are looking at climate change. Yeah, and I'm sure that this is something that we also here in Lusaka, we should embrace. Because a lot of people say, Nivakuma rural areas, why should we plant trees in Lusaka? But it's a very good initiative that we should also start. We did see in, is it 2021, before the elections, that now Material Area Member of Parliament, Mausamba, was doing some tree planting just near the rail line somewhere in Mississippi compound there. Yeah, that was a very good initiative. I don't know how far that initiative has gone though. Yeah, but it
would be good, to have a green Lusaka, where even in town, along the islands, you have trees instead of vendors selling beer there. You have trees. Anyway, let's just take a look at the story, and do join us in the various trending issues that we're discussing. With the effects of climate change being more pronounced in Zambia through flash floods, droughts, and displacement of families, the National Assembly of Zambia says no one should be left behind in tree planting as climate change cuts across all sectors. Speaking at Chikankata Day Secondary School, where she led the way in tree planting Monday, First Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly attracted Sangano says the National Assembly is in this vein aiming at planting 1,000 trees each in all 156 constituencies of the country. She notes that the country has continued to be deforested, losing about 270,000 forest cover annually.
The drive to have greener societies is not peculiar to Zambia alone, but the entire world. Therefore, this initiative is also Parliament's contribution to the collective efforts of reversing the adverse effects of climate change within the region and globally. It is therefore my desire that all members of parliament countrywide will spearhead the planting of trees in their respective constituencies. Further, I would like to call upon all the people of Zambia at large to take this initiative and plant trees.
On hand to receive her was Chikankata Member of Parliament Jacqueline Savao, who has challenged those schools to plant trees.
Trees play an essential role in mitigating the impact of climate change. The planting of these trees is very important as it contributes to the health of our lives. We need to preserve trees because they play a critical role in our lives. Trees are vital in providing the much needed oxygen for human life. Agriculture also depends on the availability of a green environment, which should be guided jealously.
Her Royal Highness Chieftainess Mwenda has also called for sensitization on climate change and tree planting.
Mutulegelele ba forestry ba mutuwa bula buya nokuba uthi nempuni mbobuponi mbobumi tulabelega andine.
Pupils at the school expressed gratitude on being taught about the importance of tree planting. Zipporah Mshala reporting for Camnet TV News.
Quite interesting there, Miriam. We've seen, tree planting, and there the MP for Chikankata, the Member of Parliament, Jacqueline Savao, was actually, challenging schools that this should be a challenge, for every school to plant trees. And she even said that the school has come up with a motto saying, one child, one tree. Imagine if all the children planted trees, how many trees would we have? And we just hope that those trees are not cut down by chocolate burners. One child, the tree, one chocolate burner, 10 trees.
They will be definitely cut down if no
one chocolate burner, 10 trees, one child, one tree.
They will definitely be cut down if no measures are being put in place, because we have continued seeing the illegal cutting down of trees. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, but I think it's a good move that we all have to adopt. Imagine. Because I was watching a documentary the other day where this man, has planted an entire forest. He was planting about 10 trees per day in a desert, an area which was deforested. It once had trees. And I said planting, is it about 10 trees, or is it for a number of 5 years? And he made an entire forest, and the whole place is now green.
That's interesting.
And that's one way of combating climate change.
Yeah. Interesting. Anyway, for our viewers who are watching us live on Facebook, please do drop us a message. And those who are watching us in the comfort of your home, please do call us in and contribute to some of the trending issues and the stories that we are looking at. What is your take on bars that are near schools? And also, just in this recent story that we have just played on, the need for each and everyone, to contribute and adopt this notion of planting trees. Zipporah, what are some of the stories that we are remaining with on our zooming headlines?
Then we also have a story, Miriam, from a Chinese company, Baogu Premix Concrete Company, in Chunga Ward of Katua constituency. Where I think we followed up this story about 2 weeks ago. Where some a Chinese company has allegedly been releasing dust into the community. People are saying they're experiencing respiratory diseases, their trees can't grow, and also they are saying the workers of the company for various times and all those things. And so Zema, the Zambia Environmental Management Agency, had directed the company to halt operations until they put measures in place to safeguard the community. And so yesterday I was just following up with the Chinese company, and they showed me around the premises saying the measures they're putting. So on the warfare there, they put sprinklers, but then, the community were just laughing, saying, how can sprinklers stop, that heavy work that goes on? When heavy work is going, the dust just flies into the air. But, that's according to the community. And the company has also put up nets on top to trap the dust. I don't know. But anyway, Zema will have to inspect.
And Zema hasn't gone on the ground yet.
No, they're still putting up those.
Okay. Right.
Yes. Anyway, and the company, the residents accuse the company that they still operate, even despite the directive not to.
Anyway, we hope that Zema would go there quickly on the ground and just do the inspection and see if it's safe for them to continue doing their construction works there. Yeah, because we don't want to jeopardize, or rather put the safety of the residents into danger. It won't be good. Yeah.
Let us take a look at that story, and remember to contribute on the various trending issues that we have for you today.
Residents of Chunga Ward in 6 Miles area of Katuba constituency recently rose up against a Chinese-owned company which they demanded closure of, stating that it was not following environmental protection laws. The residents accused Baogu Premix Concrete Company of releasing thick cement dust into the community, hence putting them in danger of respiratory illnesses. Also among their concerns was the wall fence which they said collapsed occasionally, while further accusing the company of releasing flood water into the community during the rain season. The Zambia Environmental Management Agency ZEMA gave a directive for the company to halt operations until measures to protect the community are put in place. Monday, company managing director Liu Zhuanhua told Camnet News that the company has begun putting up measures, among them water sprinklers on the wall fence to help the dust settle, while also putting up nets on the wall fence to trap the dust.
So they listened to what the community was complaining about, and then at the moment they stopped production. They're not doing any activities at the moment because they want to eradicate this same problem. There's dust which is going overboard and affecting the community. So what they're doing, as you can see on the outside, we've started. Have you seen those pipes that have been erected? That's water that's been sprayed on the inside to avoid dust going on the outside. So we are apparently doing that.
Some community members are, however, unhappy with the measures, expressing doubt that they will yield any fruit.
Vamange steel structure, chinyumba chili covered, then chinkare na pipe so that dust ija izinyonkewa izienda mumwamba maningi. Not quite if mwameni vapangira hapa, so it won't help anything.
We hear these machines working, so we don't know what agreement they have with them. Clearly, because they're not complying. You see? Even this, what they are putting up, I don't think it's a solution. And if they want to put up a warehouse to be storing dirt, let them do it from the other side. There is too much land inside here. They can utilize the other side, not where people are living. So if they want to sit down with us, as we are willing, we can gather ourselves, let them come. We'll also give them our suggestions or opinions.
But if a suggestion here is to come but you factory is the movement. So I'm assuming our person to Quinango, come with the one. Why cookies like a good band? Never met is of food. Could you like to relocate in somewhere?
It now remains for ZEMA to inspect the measures put in place once complete and determine whether the company should resume operations. Zipporah Mshala reporting for Camnet TV News.
Quite interesting there, Miriam. What are your thoughts on those sprinklers? Do you think they're enough to settle
in
the
fact,
dust?
Even the nets.
Even the nets.
I'll just leave it to them to go and do this.
You know that how dust goes?
Yeah.
It goes everywhere.
I don't know how those nets will prevent the dust. I just don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Did they consult an expert when they were putting those nets?
I think that's the company which has come up with those.
And then they decided, okay, this is the way we're going to do the thing. Yeah. Well, anyway, we hope them would go on the ground, Zippo, as quick as possible and ensure that, adequate safety measures were put in place. And it's sad that, people would want to take things casually and not, consider the health of the citizen. Just because you're doing business, you should be reminded that there are citizens around you, there are people living closer by. So it's very sad that they would, I'll still go back to my thought of saying, why would they put up such a net to say that will prevent dust? It shows that you're taking things casually.
Yeah. And this is a problem that has prevailed in the country, Miriam. That's not the first place. Even the other time there's a complaint from Lusaka West where it's Zamastone quarries and they're saying houses near that quarrying company are getting cracked. So are those people going to be compensated? Some people thought those are their life savings.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that, our people are protected, environmental protection laws.
I know we want investors to come in the country, but at what expense? Yeah.
Definitely. Moving forward, we did see Nelson also do a story, and I think this is something now that is more interesting in terms of it's something that is happening in our political scene. We saw Nelson doing a story where Emmanuel Mwamba has reported that is the PF aspiring president. Is an aspiring president for the Patriotic Front Party, and he has reported to the Public Complaints Commission. He's reported some named police officers from the Zambia police, for allegedly brutalizing him. But what is interesting in the police statement that was released by police spokesperson Noya Monga is that, Mr. Mwamba has allegedly been refusing to hand over that medical report to police. Saying, show us where you're brutalized, and it's apparently from, UTH, University Teaching Hospital. And apparently he's been saying, according to the law, I have to make copies of this before I give it to you. Miriam, what are your thoughts on that?
Maybe he needs to be given time to make copies.
How long does it take to make copies? Anyway, do call us as we're discussing bias trending issues. But I think just to help us get a clear picture, let's play that story so that our viewers can understand and give their comments on the topic.
While those in authority call it the rule of law, government critics call it political witch hunt, and that is the discourse around Zambian politics. On Wednesday, 14th June 2023, police officers allegedly arrested Opposition Patriotic Front Vice Chairperson for Information and Publicity, Emmanuel Mwamba, at Lusaka's Emersdale Police Station, who was later transferred to Woodlands Police Station. While it is a job well done by the law enforcers, Emmanuel Mwamba has filed a complaint against 3 officers alleging that they assaulted him when effecting an arrest on him at Jamie's Car Wash on Mosotunya Road in Woodlands. While addressing the media yesterday, the former ambassador alleged that his rights were violated.
I hope that the police can investigate. I have medical reports here to confirm what was done to me, and you members of the press, I can show you. Tomorrow in the morning, I'm going to the Police and Public Complaints Commission for the unprofessional and brutal manner I was arrested. I'm not above the law. I can be summoned, I can comply, but I think it is wrong for the police to brutally treat citizens in the manner they treated me. To manufacture charges. You heard that a police officer who brutally beat me, knocked out my tooth, he was the first one to report a case of assault. This is cover-up. That's fraud. He should be arrested for fraud.
Meanwhile, police spokesperson Ray Hamonga confirmed receiving the complaint.
Woodlands Police Station on the 18th of June around 11 hours received a report from Mayor Emmanuel Mwamba. He was released on police bond on 16th of June 2023, later on to have come to Woodlands Police Station on 18th June 2023 around 11 hours with a police medical form allegedly to have been issued to him from University Teaching Hospital Police Post, which form he did not avail to the police as by law established, claiming that he needed to make copies of it. We are waiting for him to bring back the police medical form as by law required to further.
But civil rights activist Brebna Changala says all arrests of political opponents are well calculated and meant to ill-treat the opposition.
Why is it that only the opposition are always guilty, or only the opposition must be suspects, and the ruling party starts floating in glory? It is because of political interference. We have a police force that is highly politicized, a police force that is ill-trained, incompetent, a police force that...
Meanwhile, UPND spokesperson Cornelius Mwetwa says politicians should not play with the law as it is blind.
I have not seen my brother Emmanuel Mwamba, and I'll give him a call. So I can't comment on that, but if the police brutalized him, then the police are at fault. Because in Zambia, corporal punishment has been outlawed. No one is supposed to be brutalized by police. Probably because PF radicalized and weaponized police against its own citizens. That is why we still have remnants of some few isolated pockets of police brutality or indiscipline. So it's not our fault. We do not arrest anyone as a party in government. We don't. It's police.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Former State House Special Assistant to the President for Politics, Zumani Zimba, will continue spending his nights behind a correctional facility alongside his co-accused, following the decision by the Lusaka High Court to decline his application. The Lusaka High Court has to grant bail to Mr. Zimba and his co-accused on ground that the Anti-Terrorism Act, Section 69, has a retrospective effect and therefore cannot be admitted to bail. However, the lawyer says they will appeal the court's ruling. Zumani Zimba, along with Melon Banda, Port Fangawa, and Given Piri had applied for bail before the Lusaka High Court pending trial. The four have been arrested by the police and charged with terrorism. The case of Dr. Zimba, who faces charges related to possession of articles for terrorism, has raised concern about the delayed court appearance and extended incarceration without bail. In their earlier submission before court, the four had argued that they are eligible for bail, stating that the offense allegedly occurred in 2020, while the amendment to the Act, Terrorism and Non-Proliferation Act, which introduced non-bailable charges, only took place in 2023. According to them, retroactively applying the 2023 amendment to offenses committed prior to its enactment would require explicit authorization by law. Recently filed document in the High Court had reviewed shocking allegations made by Given Piri, one of their co-accused, who claimed that he and others were subjected to physical abuse and torture by the police, who allegedly forced them to implicate former President Edgar Lungu and Mr. Zimba in the case. In his affidavit before court, Piri had claimed that officers informed him about the substantial finding behind investigations and their interest in implicating the former head of state in the gassing allegations. In early 2020, the country was rocked with chemical gassing incidents of home schools, which left many dead and some injured. Miriam Kemba reporting for Camnet TV News. Quite interesting there. We have seen that, several arrests have been made so far, and they are all coming from opposition members. Zipporah, one concern that we have seen is that, people coming from the opposition political parties have continued to cry out every time they're faced with a law. However, the police still maintain that they are working or rather acting professionally in conducting their duties. So there's no way people would claim a witch hunt, a witch hunt and stuff like that. But my question is it normal or in order for any person to be crying foul every time they're faced with arrest? Let's bring it to the community. We have seen a lot of people in the compound, every time arrested. We can't go. Yeah, but when you're faced with the law, aren't you supposed to be taken to court, prove your innocence?
Yes, so apparently, we've seen many stakeholders like the Southern African say the constructive resolution of disputes, they've been calling for the law to be applied. I think you heard that from, the UPND spokesperson, Cornelius Moto, says there may be a few remnants of unruly police officers who need to be straightened. So according to the opposition, they've been alleging that, they're not issued a police court. If you follow that press briefing on Sunday, Mr. Mwamba was alleging that he was being trailed by people in plain clothes, then they just pounced on him. No police. Yeah, and when they asked them, are you following me? They said, yes, we're following you. More like, criminal. That's what he said in the press briefing.
Exactly.
So, and allegedly they pounced on him, just battered him up and threw him in the police without an explanation. And allegedly assaulted him.
Okay, when we talk about the brutality that, people have continued, not only opposition members, and, You know, this is the first time that an opposition member has been arrested, and we hear such police brutality.
Yeah, it's surprising.
Yeah, it's surprising because most of the time, most of the arrests that we have seen, we haven't, you know, heard them complain about being brutalized by the police. But from Mr. Mwamba, we have seen that, and there are also pictures which are, you know, circulating on social media where you can see the bruises on his arm. But the concern is, why should police officers go to such an extent? Yeah.
That is, so let me just read the statement from police spokesperson Reha Monga, which released yesterday, and the statement reads, Woodlands Police Station on June 18th, 2023, at 11 hours received a report from Emmanuel Mwamba, age 53, former Zambian ambassador to Ethiopia, of plot number 136A Chanda, Musonda Road, Villa Elizabetha, alleging that he was assaulted by 3 male officers who were effecting an arrest on him. So he was alleging that 3 male officers who were effecting an arrest on him assaulted him. This is alleged to have occurred on June 14, 2023 at Jamie's Car Wash, Mosotunya Road in Woodlands. Facts of the matter are that Mr. Emmanuel Mwamba was arrested on June 14, 2023 at Jamie's Car Wash on Mosotunya Road in Woodlands, then detained at Emmansdale Police Station. On June 15, 2023, Mr. Emmanuel Mwamba was charged for the offense of assault on a police officer, contrary to Section 250B of the Penal Code Act, Chapter 87 of the Laws of Zambia, which offense is alleged to have been committed during his apprehension at Jamie's Car Wash. He was further jointly charged and arrested on June 16, 2023 with Andy Luchende, age 29, both residents of Lusaka, for 2 counts of forgery, contrary to Section 342 of the Penal Code Act, Chapter 87 of the Laws of Zambia, and 3 counts of publication of information, contrary to Section 54 of the Cyber Security and Cyber Crimes Act No. 2 of 2021. He was released on police bond on June 16, 2023, later on to have come to Woodlands Police Station on June 18, 2023, around 11 hours, with a police medical form alleged to have been issued at the University Teaching Hospital, which he, however, failed to unveil to the police, stating that by law established, he needed to make copies of it. We are waiting for him to bring back the police medical report as by law required for further investigations. So this is according to Ray Hamunga. You know, quite interesting.
Quite interesting, Zipporah, quite interesting. But the concern still remains, why should police engage in this torture on civilians?
I think we have a call here. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. We seem to have lost that caller, but Dukoen as well discussing various trending issues. My interest, Miriam, is why would he refuse to give the medical? I mean, is in printing everywhere. I don't know any of those that have my thoughts. But Dukoen, before we give what is your take on what has been happening in a country where the opposition are crying foul and, you know, claiming political persecution? And is it recently last week where we heard the UPND Deputy Secretary General saying actually more of UPND are being arrested?
We haven't heard that from the media. We haven't heard that. If there were more, compared to how the opposition are being arrested, we would have heard that, Zipporah.
You know, that was according to the UPND Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General Gertrude Imenda.
Records will show, and facts will still maintain and show that if those indeed were there more arrests coming from the ruling party. But anyway, all in all, Zipporah, the other thing that we should also look at as a country is, if anyone needs to be faced by the law, we shouldn't, you know, be considerate of where they're coming from. We shouldn't, you know, deny ourselves the opportunity of saying, I cannot investigate. As law enforcers, they should not deny themselves an opportunity to say, we cannot, you know, interview or investigate this person because they're aligned maybe to the ruling, okay, or they are associated with someone from the ruling party. That shouldn't be the case. If there's need for someone to be investigated, let it be done so. No one should be shielded. Yeah. And you know, when we talk about, again, coming back to the police brutality, this is something that needs to be stopped. We have seen the Human Rights Commission, you know, on several occasions talking about this and condemning the torture. Anyway, good morning and welcome to the Camnet TV Breakfast Show.
Hello, yes, I'm calling up.
Who are we talking to this morning?
I'm okay, I'm calling you from the south.
It's good to know that you're watching us, sir. Please go ahead with your contribution.
My contribution, I wanted to talk about this because they are talking about the police brutality.
Yes, please.
So, with myself, I can say I'm very disappointed in whereby the people who want to rule us, they don't want also to follow the law. So, if we do always the law, what is going to happen to this Gambia of ourselves? People in the compound, they are arrested because they are poor, no one can imagine the police and say no, it's brutality. So a wrong is a wrong. And the few people, the media also to create that what does the constitution say? Why do you make the constitution? So people should not do that because they are in opposition, they can do anything. Why these are not arrested from other opposition parties? Why are you only the team? They are just seeking sympathy from the country.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I raise my case.
Thank you so much for your contribution, sir.
I think I had a thought, but then I lost it on the caller call. Yeah, I had a second. I'm trying to come up again.
Anyway, he has brought up some of the points where he's talking about why people who want to rule us are acting in certain manner, you know, and also just alleging that the Patriotic Front are seeking sympathy from the public when they come out. And anyway, that's his opinion. But again, when we come back, Zipporah, when we talk about police brutality, this is something that has been continued condemned about. And you know, we have civil society organizations which have on several occasions held meetings, you know, condemning this action. But nothing is being changed. It doesn't matter regardless if someone is coming from the opposition, is a public figure, he's coming from Mississippi. It shouldn't be that way. And you know, when we talk about police brutality, a lot of people who faces such are those coming from, you know, humble backgrounds. Talking about someone from Mississippi compound or Kanyema compound. Because once those people are brutalized by the police or tortured by the police, they won't go anywhere and say, no, I'm going to report to this police officer, because they're afraid that this police officer will do something against me, add more charges on me. Yeah.
Definitely. And Miriam, we have another issue. I think a few weeks ago, we saw some civil society organizations, you know, they were talking about the Public Order Act, Miriam. Last year we saw it, you know, there was debates, there was this. And there's another bill, also the access to information bill. What has happened to these? Or maybe how far or how are these two bills moving so far? I think those are some of the interviews that we need to do with the stakeholders, you know, in government right now. You know, maybe the Ministry of Information. Just find out how far is the issue of access to information going. Because
the bill was taken to Cabinet office and yet to be tabled before Parliament. But you know, these are some of the concerns that we have seen from various stakeholders who have continued calling that it should be tabled before Parliament as soon as possible. When the New Dawn government was then in opposition, they did call for this as well. But why are they delaying for it to be enacted into law? Yeah.
You know, quite interesting there, Miriam. And to our viewers, please just go in and give your thought on what we are discussing today. And Miriam, you know, another, like if you followed the press briefing on Sunday, they alleged, you know, that, you know, that the UP, they alleged, like different stock. We saw the NDC, we saw the New Heritage Party, we saw the Zambia Must Prosper, we saw the EFF, actually.
Yes,
being arrested.
He was arrested yesterday with 19 others of his supporters.
Is it the case of the free education?
No, his case is in relation to, remember that they had recently held a protest where they were protesting against the awarding of the contract for the road. Yes, exactly. So now, according to the police, he was arrested because he did not follow certain measures that he was given by the police. But anyway, yesterday, the Lusaka Magistrate Court revoked their police bond because apparently it so happens that every time they go to court, you find that one person is missing from the group. So, meaning they're delaying to take their plea. So, if one person is missing from the group...
So they have to be all of them at the same time?
Yes, at the same time for you to take plea to a charge.
Because they're a group?
Yes, because they're a group.
So what happens every time they go, it gets adjourned?
It gets adjourned because one person is not there. So now the magistrate was, because yesterday when the matter was called before court, it was supposed to come for plea. Apparently, one person again was not there. So the magistrate was like, it's enough. And yeah, revoked the police bond and said, you will now be, you're only going to come out when you find 2 working sureties and they sign for you bail. Yeah. So they are currently in custody. I hear they're currently at Kamola prison, Kamola remand, correctional facility. Yeah.
We do have another caller, Miriam.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, madam. How are you?
We are fine, thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm fine.
Who are we talking to this morning?
This is Mr. Igwendo calling you from Masai to Copper Belt.
It's good to know that Copper Belt is watching. Please, Mr. Njogu, go ahead with your contribution.
Thank you. First and foremost, I just want to thank you, Camnet TV, especially through our lovely Pastor Silva, Mrs. Silva.
Thank you so much.
Actually, I'm a follower. I just want to comment on what I heard about our ceremony, which will be in July here in Marembeka.
Yes.
We always just hear about like other ceremonies like Bomboka, Ntwala, and Uktekia Pangwena. It's my first time to hear about the Kwejimuna ceremony. So the Kwajimuna Federation, tulinyaba kumtembeleni kwa watu mpaka ngweko kukutekia ukule ceremony kwa Kwejimuna kuno. Tulikuwa inambana vile mfika. Inewe hivyo ndio kuno kwetu mushiri na totama na mjunge wewe.
Thank you so much.
Was that Lamba Miriam?
Lamba, yes.
So it sounds like Bemba.
It sounds like Bemba, yes. Anyway, that's the importance of culture.
Yeah, here we are discussing various trending issues. We're discussing what is happening on the political scene. We're discussing as well as what is happening, what other issues are coming up. Earlier we did mention that we have the Kulimuna traditional ceremony.
Exactly.
I think I would like to see for myself, Miriam, firsthand.
Yeah,
and see exactly what happens, because I think this is the very first time to hear about it.
We'll definitely go and cover the traditional ceremonies, people.
We'll definitely do so. And I'm sure we can come up with many more interesting topics from Mpongwe there. And Miriam, that just brings to my mind that we're all one people. If those people came from Congo, and that's now Mpongwe district.
That's now Mpongwe district, indeed.
We're all one. As Africa, like you have the Northies who originate from South Africa, yes, and all those things. So one as Africa, so we definitely shouldn't even be hearing about things such as xenophobia and all those other issues. We're one as a country, one as Africa as a continent.
Indeed, exactly. Anyway, Zipporah, before we had the caller there, we were talking about the police brutality. You were about to mention something. Yeah, on the need for police to stop this brutality against civilians every time they make these arrests.
Oh well, those are just those are definitely calls from stakeholders out there, so you can call in and contribute on the various issues that are happening in the country. So we were discussing the EFF.
Oh yeah.
The EFF president.
Exactly.
So the Mwenda was actually bemoaning. Even on Sunday, he was actually bemoaning, saying when I protested against free education, I was arrested and all that.
Okay. I really don't know. But there are certain things that those people, those who would want to rule the country, to hold public office, I think there's a certain level to an extent of what they need to do. There are certain issues that you really don't need to condemn. In my opinion, Zipporah, there are certain things that, in as much as we're talking about offering checks and balances to the current administration, there's an extent of what should be condemned and what should not be condemned. It's not everything. There are certain things which have been done in the interest of the people, And indeed, when you analyze and you see the facts, you indeed can, agree that, okay, this was done in the best interest of the people. But where would, in a situation where we would want to, condemn everything, and at the end of the day we are found on the wrong side of the law and want to cry that we're being prosecuted, it's quite sad. It's quite sad.
Definitely, like you said, like if you read even this police statement, it's alleging that, the assault actually happened the other way around. And that was according to the police statement, and apparently when he asked for the medical report, he says he has to print it. But then we also heard from the UPND spokesperson there who says he's not yet spoken to his counterpart, his political counterpart, who's alleged to have been brutalized, but definitely they're saying the police will look into it.
Anyway, right about now, we'll just take a short break and we'll be right back.
Umwana na nyina ingana babutuluka uwinge wo munankwatira sambe nani mwe ikushya ine shenya bo mwikere nabo.
The FARS 2022-2023 season is over, and the 2023 to 2024 season is around the corner. Camnet Stars Football Club, popularly known as the local national team, is looking for young talented football players from across Zambia, aged between 16 and 23 years old. Camnet soccer trials will be held on the 30th of June and the 1st of July 2023 in Lusaka at 09 hours. The venue is Kabulonga Boys Secondary School grounds. Your skills could earn you a place in the world of soccer greats in Zambia and the world. Camnet Stars Football Club, the local national team, is a team born for greatness with visionary players. Let us join hands and contribute to high levels of Zambian football standard. Don't miss these trials. The future of Zambian soccer is dependent on you. Make a desk with us. Remember, you were born for greatness. See you there.
Time! Camnet TV brings to you an exciting kid show called My Creation. Join me, Sarah Chandamagazagia, to interact with kids with special skills and talents between the age range of 9 to 7-10. This show will come to you every Saturday at 13:30 on Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Thank you for staying tuned in, and we continue discussing various trending issues. And just now we talked briefly about what we had introduced earlier, Miriam, when we were beginning. We were talking about the Kwilimuna traditional ceremony, and we did indicate that there are many traditional ceremonies here in Zambia, but only a few I ever highlighted. But in July we expect to Zambia to host the Kwilimuna traditional ceremony. And just a few details about Kwilimuna here. It says Kwilimuna ceremony is an annual event held in July in the Ichipembwe Arena at Venga in Pongo district of Upper Belt province. This is a lively celebration of Zambian culture. Over a 3-day period, the history of the Wulima tribe is told, and Chief Malembeka is praised as the honorable head of the Wulima tribe, and there is a lively program of speeches, intermingled with music, traditional dance, and sketches with a purpose. At this traditional harvest festival, on the first day, guests assemble to start food preparations. On the following day, the feast are underway with traditional dancing and sketches. The Kwilimuna ceremony culminates on the 3rd day when the chief and the various dignitaries join the festival. So it's a 3-day period, and to bring a lot of tourists during this period.
And I think there's need for a lot of publicity, that should be done so that people would understand and learn more about this traditional ceremony, as well as, attract tourists that are coming into, just to contribute and bring foreign exchange revenue in return. It's very very good. And we have seen that the Ministry of Tourism, have continued to also, Zipporah, to play a role in ensuring that culture is also part of, bringing tourism across the country. Quite interesting.
And just now, Miriam, I think this is where we do wrap up on our interesting segment of today, 20th June 2023.
Definitely, Zipporah, my first, what I would say is I would like to go to this traditional ceremony, Zipporah. Not as a journalist, but as someone who exactly, to go and dance, eat the food, and stuff like that, and mingle and just, understand and learn more and appreciate the value of culture. Yeah.
And quite interesting. So we have been discussing various trending issues earlier on. We were playing stories that made our headlines on the community desk. We also went into what is trending in politics, and we also talked about the importance of culture in we also highlighting the Kwilimunda traditional ceremony that will be held in July. But remember to do stay tuned into Camnet TV as we take you into more interesting topics for the rest of the week from Miriam Kayemba.
Before you go, Zippo, you haven't told me happy birthday.
No, Miriam, it's not just your birthday. At which time of today were you born? At which time? It's tomorrow. So for now, you're still a baby. Tomorrow, I'm going to wish you a happy birthday.
But you need to tell me in advance.
No, Miriam. Tomorrow, if he's bringing you on TV,
we'll bring you on set.
We'll bring you on TV.
Definitely, I think the viewers are hearing this. You need to keep your promise, though.
But unfortunately, it's Patrick, so I'll tell you next week and say happy belated birthday, Miriam.
But you could have told me in advance.
Happy birthday, Miriam.
Thank you. Was it so hard?
I'm so happy. These are babies born in June. June babies.
June babies are strong because June is very cold.
Because of the cold.
Yeah, we are strong. We're strong babies indeed. Anyway, this is where we wrap up and come to the end of our program this morning. For me, Miriam Kayemba, and my colleague Zipporah Mshara, it's bye-bye and stay blessed.